Crap! Oh my God. Well, all the years of being a fan of the Eagles, that game yesterday was not very surprising. It was not very welcome, but it was not very surprising. I've seen performances like this before where we need a win against a team that we should be better than towards the end of the year, a game that means a lot to the Eagles, and they play down to the level of that other team. They don't show up, call it what you will, but that was disastrous yesterday. And to think this fan base had to hope on Saturday night that Dallas wins a game. This is what this team put us through. We had to, I'm not going to say root for Dallas, but we had to hope that Detroit didn't win the game because it would help our seeding. But I said, after the game, I thought this repeatedly. I said, you know what? As controversial as that ending was, Detroit losing still helps the Eagles, but, and there's that big but, the Eagles have to help themselves. They have to win a game against a team that they're better than. I don't care if Gannon is the coach of the Cardinals and this is a big rally around Gannon type of game for them. I don't care what the situation is. Murray wants to show out. This player wants to do this, that. The Eagles are a better team than the Cardinals, and there's more on the line for the Eagles in the game. And it's the any given Sunday thing, I get that. But at the end of the day, if you're better than another team and you have playoff seeding, you have a chance to even be a number one seed if the 49ers slip up one of these games. And instead, you come out with that type of performance. Now, it was more on the defense than it was on the offense. The offense scored, 31 or whatever it was. I mean, that should have been more than enough. More than enough to beat the 3-win Cardinal team. But no, our defense decides, okay, this game, we're just not going to show up. Besides for the one play where Murray basically threw the ball to Brown for the big 90-plus yard interception. And you would think that after that play, that would have been the inspiring play, the big play that would have just made them just, crush that team. Cardinals have nothing to play. Their season's done. Like that play, 90-plus yards, the fans are going crazy. We're up 14-3. You would think that would have been the galvanizing play that would have, even though it was early in the game, but could have put that early, spike in it, right? Spike in the coffin of the Cardinals and say you're not winning this game. But no, what happens on the very next drive? The Cardinals go right down the field and score a touchdown. You got to be kidding me. This is the Cardinals you're playing. You're not playing one of the better offenses in the league. You're playing Kyler Murray, who seems to at times care more about, video games than playing the quarterback position. And you let him just take over the game. You let them get whatever they wanted the whole game, the entire game, after that interception return. And the Cardinals weren't doing anything fancy. They were playing a vanilla offense. They were just handing the ball off. They were handing the ball off and they were throwing to the same receivers over and over again. There was nothing different about what they were doing. There was nothing unique, nothing earth-shattering, nothing that can't be defended. But you know what? When you're playing defense, it's about will and want to and effort and tackling. And this team does not do that. They haven't done it all year. Now, not to this degree, where you give up touchdowns on every frickin' possession by the opponent. It was atrocious. Horrible effort at home against a team that you should beat. Now, I will say this. Philadelphia teams, for whatever the reason is, we always seem to come up small against teams that we should beat in big situations. I don't know why. I don't understand it. It's frustrating as all get out. You know, we lose playoff series to the Atlanta Hawks, to the Arizona Diamondbacks, to the Cardinals when the Phillies had the 4 aces going in the 2011 season, 100-plus wins team, losing to the Cardinals when you have a series lead, the Hawks when you have a lead, the Diamondbacks when you're up 2-0, and then 3-2 where all you have to do is win one game at home. And I know it's not always the easiest thing. Sports is what it is. But every damn time we play one of these teams that we should beat, and I've seen it with the Eagles before, I've seen this. I remember some years ago after the Deshaun Jackson Miracle in the Meadowlands punt return for touchdown. They played the Vikings. The Vikings were terrible that year. They were out of it. All the Eagles had to do was win that game, and they would have had a higher seed in a more favorable matchup in the playoffs. And they lost to Joe freaking Webb on a Tuesday night game because they moved the game because of snow. It was the wusses of the wussification of America, whatever Ed Rendell was saying at the time. And they changed the game to a Tuesday night, and the Eagles lost the game that they should have won against a bad team. And we ended up playing the hot Packers, and they won that game and went on to win the Super Bowl that year. And here we are again. Fast forward to the last day of 2023. All the Eagles have to do is win a game at home against the Arizona stinking Cardinals, and we always have trouble with that card. Always throughout I remember when the Cardinals were in the Eagles division many years ago, we always had trouble with them. For whatever reason, the Cardinals always circle the Eagles as their Super Bowl game. I don't know why. They lose to all these other teams. They play the Eagles. They play out of their minds. And the Eagles help. The Eagles certainly help. Tired of that team. I don't know what we did to Arizona. I have no idea why the Arizona team, it's like we can't beat them. We lose to the Diamondbacks, we lose to the Cardinals. I mean, if the Flyers somehow make the Cup Finals one year against the Coyotes, or the Sixers play against the Suns, I think I know how it's going to go. But at any rate, here we are, big game at home. Everything kind of went in our favor, right? The 49ers lose the last week against the Ravens. You had Dallas, Detroit losing to Dallas. All we have to do is beat the Cardinals. All we have to do is beat the Giants. Of course we lose to the Cardinals. Of course. But it goes beyond that. It's this team, you can call it collapse, whatever you want to call it, they're just not good enough. And it starts with the head coach. And I know there's a lot of talk right now about should they move on from Sirianni after the season or not. I vote to move on from him because he's lost the team. Listen, you can say whatever you want. Everything's looking good when times are good, when you're winning. Last season, the team was the best team, arguably the best team in the league. They lost the Super Bowl on a heartbreak fashion, but they were one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league last season. Everything was going well. It's easy to look good then as a head coach. When you're tested, when times get tough, when you have to do some coaching, not just on the field, but in the locker room, when you have to galvanize the team, when you have to get guys together, when times are struggling, right? When you're 10-1, it's one thing. But then you get blown out by the 49ers at home. You get blown out in Dallas. And what do? This is when you have to earn your money and earn what you are as a head coach. And instead, they lose to Seattle in a tough game. Now, they come back and barely beat the Giants. And you would think that, okay, well, look, there were circumstances in those other games. Whatever, okay, they just got by the Giants, but they got the win. That's what we needed. Let's take care of business against the Cardinals. And a better head coach wins that game. A better head coach has more feel of his team, gets the team together, has the big picture in front. We still have everything in front of us. We even have a chance at the 1 seed. Put this team together. And instead, they fall flat. They fall flat on their face. The play calling is terrible on offense. And it goes beyond Johnson. Everybody's complaining and putting the blame on Johnson because he's the OC, and maybe so. But Nick Sirianni is an offensive-minded head coach. The offensive game plans week to week. It's not just Johnson. It's between Sirianni and Johnson. And it's been terrible all year with this type of talent. This is the thing that's the most frustrating, is they're wasting the talent that they have, which is some of the best talent that they've had in decades. Look at the wide receiver position. 2,000-yard back-to-back season receivers. And you're wasting it because of the play calling is terrible. It's a close game. It's a tie game. Cardinals onside kicked the ball. And at the time when they did that, I said, oh, crap. Because I knew exactly why they did it. Because they wanted to get the ball back. And if they got the onside kick, it was a bonus. But they did that so that the Eagles would have a shorter field, that they would have a quicker score, and if they held them to a field goal, even better, because the Eagles sure as hell couldn't stop the Cardinals from scoring touchdowns. And sure enough, here we go with the holding call, right? The Cardinals ran all these plays. There wasn't one hold at all ever called. Not one hold. All these runs that they had. But anyhow, the Eagles, Mulata with a holding call, right? And what happens? Now it goes from 1st and 10 to 1st and 20. And this offense that should be aggressive in this is the situation. This is the problem. They're aggressive when you don't have to be aggressive. They were aggressive earlier in the season at a home game against Washington. You scored a touchdown, but you gave the Commanders all this time left with the ball, and sure enough, they got the ball, and they went down the field and scored the tying touchdown because you gave them time instead of just holding the ball and winning the game on a last-second field goal. Then they were aggressive. But now where you have to be aggressive with your offense because you know your defense is struggling and you need touchdowns, because at the very least, all the Cardinals can do is tie it unless they go for two, and maybe they do. And the way that game was going yesterday, they probably get the last, second touchdown and they get the 2-point conversion to win the game. But still, you got to get a touchdown on that possession. And what do? The stupid play calling. Here it comes. Jalen Hurts, who has a knee, he hasn't been running as effectively as he was the last few seasons, but yet they keep doing these bootleg runs with him for some reason that have not been very effective all year. And in the biggest moment of the game, the first two plays are runs by Jalen Hurts that go nowhere. Surprise, surprise. And then you do the stupid bubble screen that got Devontae Smith hurt to Kenneth Gainwell. You run the 3 plays in a row that's been their worst offensive plays all year. Last week against the Giants, you had a 3rd and 20 and you threw a pass to A.J. Brown that was caught for a touchdown. Or was caught for a first down, rather. Excuse me. And this week, instead of using one of your weapons like A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, you're going to just run the ball with Jalen Hurts for 2 very little gains or no gain or whatever, and then you're going to do a stupid bubble screen on 4th down because, well, we're going to preserve the field goal because that's going to help in that situation. Your defense can't stop anybody. That's where you got to be aggressive. You got to get down and get a touchdown. You can't settle for a field goal. But it was like once that penalty happened, it was like they were like, you know what? Let's just hold for the field goal. Come on, man. That's not winning football. That just isn't. That's scared football. And to me, he's lost the team. I mean, he's lost it. And if you lost the quarterback, it's absolutely time to move on from Sirianni. I was always a little lukewarm towards him anyhow, ever since his first year where he gave up the play calling. I mean, here he comes in as one of these young, offensive-minded guys, right? And the first season, he's giving up the play calling offensively because it was crap to Shane Steichen. Now, that worked out. Shane Steichen was a much better play caller, and his offense worked. And unfortunately, because they had success last year, Shane Steichen, and good for him, got a head coach job with the Colts. As I've said many times, when you have success, you're going to lose coordinators. And in some cases, very good coordinators. But you have to replenish that. And for whatever reason, this franchise is not good with replenishing coordinators. Now, I don't know if that falls on the head coach, the organization, a little of everything. It's probably a little of everything. But they just don't. They didn't do it when Doug Peterson was the head coach, and now they haven't done it when Nick Sirianni is the head coach. But to me, this is when you earn your stripes and earn your money as a head coach. When things are going wrong, you gotta get the ship corrected, right? You gotta have it going back in the right direction. The season wasn't over after you lost to the 49ers in Dallas. There was still time to correct things, and I hate every week. You might as well just put a recorder device with him saying the same, because he says the same stuff every week. Well, this is a learning situation. This is it's week 17 going to week 18. If you haven't learned it yet, you're not going to. Enough of the learnings. This is a teachable learning moment. We can learn from this. Enough of the learn. At this point, you got to be playing your best football. When you're going into the playoffs, you got to be playing your best football, not your worst football. This team went backwards. And, and it is frustrating. I mean, seasons like this, they're frustrating, but I can't look. I've seen this before. I've seen this. I've seen worse than this. As hard as it is to say after that game yesterday, I've seen worse. But that's unacceptable. You're at a home game with everything on the line for seeding, playoff seeding, and you lay an egg against the Cardinals. You made them look like a Super Bowl champion yesterday, like a world beater. Like you never saw a running play in your life. You don't know how to defend that? That's all the Cardinals were doing, handing the ball off and having easy throws for Murray. And, I mean, would it kill you to defend one of their receivers just once? Just once. Maybe get a hand on the ball or do something instead of just allowing them to run free all over the field. I hate the coverages. I really do. Just free. Every game, free receivers down the middle. Oh, no one around them. Every time it's an easy throw for the quarterback. Look, this team has looked bad defensively against Mac Jones. They looked bad in week 1, and it was week 1. But Mac Jones had a game against them. He sucks. You lose to the Jets. The Jets. And that should have been a tell right then. But that game, all right, you turned the ball over too much. I mean, Hal had career games against this team, this defense. And just moving, demoting the Cy and promoting the Pencil Man, I mean, that wasn't, come on. The team obviously, look, they played a little better. But overall, they didn't respond to that. And Matt Patricia is not good. He had success in New England, not because of what he was doing, but because that was Bill Belichick's defense. Terrible. Terrible. And like I said, man, I hate to say this, and I hate the fact that this team has put me in this position. I hate this. But if it means that Sirianni's out of here after this season, if it means that they have to lose at the Giants and they get blown out in that playoff game against Tampa or wherever they would play that wins the South, New Orleans, whoever it is, if that's what it's going to take to get this guy out of here, then I hope that that's what happens. Because they're not going to go anywhere with him. And I'm not just saying that because of instant reaction. I see how this team's playing and how they're not playing. And all this stuff in the locker room that's going on. All this infighting. Head coach has got to get on top of this type of stuff, and he's not. And I honestly, it's one of the worst things It's one of the worst things when you have to keep hitting the reset button. Now we're going to have to get a new head coach, new coordinators, new system, right? You go through teams that go through that routinely don't win. And the Eagles, look, they got lucky. They went from Peterson, they won a Super Bowl, they moved on from him. Sirianni, they go to another Super Bowl last year. That's not guaranteed. And I know it's hard to be the team to lose the Super Bowl and then have success the next year. The only team that did it was the Patriots, and they had Brady and that team at the height of their power. That dynasty at the height of their power. It's hard, and I get that. But this team is just, they're listless out there. And the offense that should be better with all the talent that they have is borderline boring to watch. It's like they have no game plan. They don't make adjustments during games. And defensively, I mean, you think they can make an adjustment during a game? That would be a shocker if that ever happened. It's the same vanilla defense week after week. And look, the blame goes all around. The blame goes to Howie too. As much as we praised him for the success they were having, look, you have to put more emphasis on linebackers and safeties. You have to do a better job at drafting young corners, safeties, linebackers. You can't just depend on it in free agency or trade or moves during the season. You have to be able to draft those guys. And this whole Georgia, let's get all the Georgia dogs thing. I mean, we're seeing that this isn't working. There's other good players that play on other teams in college football. Porter played at Penn State in your backyard, and you could have drafted him. Seemed to work out for Pittsburgh. And I know a GM position is a hard position because you have to hit more times than you don't. And it's a hard thing to do. I get that. But Howie's got to get better in certain situations. I thought he got better offensively. Bringing in guys at the skill positions, wide receiver, even bringing in a running back here and there like a Swift. Of course, they don't know how to use him in games. Sometimes they forget he's on the team and they just put Gainwell out there for a whole series or Boston Scott or something. But now Howie's got to get better and they have to look. It's not something that the franchise has done, but they got to change it because it's not working. You have to get better. You have to put more emphasis on linebacker and safety play. It has to be better because without that, you can have whatever you want on the defensive line. I know last year, listen, they set the record for sacks for a franchise. It's not working this year. You can't just depend on that every year, right? But they did have better linebacker play last year, and unfortunately, the guy goes to the Bears to have a Pro Bowl season. You had better safety play last year. You had a Gardner Johnson who was a ball hawk. You don't have that this year. You let him go. Sometimes, if you have good players on your team in those positions, as much as maybe it's not what you usually believe in to put the money towards, but sometimes that's what you got to do. If you have good players, and I know you can't keep everybody, but if there's certain players that are doing good for you, and it's not going to break the bank to keep them on the team, even if it's at positions that you don't value as much as offensive, defensive line, and quarterback. But if those players are dependable players on your team, you got, and it's not going to break the bank to keep them. You keep them. And Edwards and Chauncey Gardner should have been kept. They should have been retained. TJ Edwards and Gardner Johnson should have been retained on this team. And I know it's all hindsight. It's been, well, look at what the team is now. I get that. But even at the time, I thought it was a bad thing that they moved on from those guys. Because they were two of the players that helped your defense, you know? They were part of the reason why this defensive line was able to get so many sacks. Because they were doing their job at linebacker and safety. They all work hand in hand. And, you know, it's just more frustration upon more frustration. And my fear is that they're not going to, you know, they're going to keep things status quo after this season, regardless of how it ends. And Sirianni will still be here as the head coach. They'll move on. They'll get more, you know, coordinators. They'll get new coordinators, but will they get the right ones? If one of the main problems is still your head coach, you got to move on from him. And I know it's that hit the reset button. I get that, but it's just not working with him. And this team is being embarrassed now. And it's got to be embarrassing to Jeffrey Lurie and to Howie Roseman to watch this. This is an embarrassment. This is as bad as it gets. I'm going the wrong way. This is as bad as this team has played in a long time. I mean, you have to go back maybe Doug Peterson's last season to see something like this, like that Arizona game. I mean, that was just pathetic. And it made it worse because there was still a lot on the line as far as seeding's concerned. Now, maybe that would have been false hope. Maybe, you know, it wouldn't have mattered. They would have had a home playoff game, and maybe they would have lost to the Rams or whoever would have came in here, right? But at least, I mean, damn, man, don't show up flat in a game that you have to have against a team that you should beat. And, oh, by the way, your former defensive coordinator is the head coach of that team. Don't let him show you up. But that's exactly what they did. And here we sit on the first day of 2024, and we just have no hope for this team the rest of the season. And Slim and I are going to be at that game next weekend in the Meadowlands. It's just going to be a miserable experience, you know, watching that team play. I don't have any hope for this team. I just don't. And I hate saying that as a fan. I love the team. You know, these Philly teams, I mean, we all know I wear my emotions on the sleeve, but this is just tough. This is just this ain't it. This team ain't it. They just aren't. They're broken. And honestly, I think a way to start to fix it is to move on from Sirianni after the season and to get a new head coach, whoever that might be. That's my honest opinion. And, you know, and it's not just because of the losing. It's not just because of that. It's seeing how this locker room is just not responding to him. Seeing how these players are not responding. Seeing all the dissension that's happening. Right? And this is a team with leaders. This is a team with Jason Kelce and Brandon Graham and Lane Johnson and Fletcher Cox and guys that have won. This is a team with leaders, and they can't keep it together because it falls on the coaching. It just does. Any team, when things like this happen, it falls on the coach because you can't get rid of all the players and start over from scratch there. So it's got to be the coach. And it sucks because there's only been 3 seasons with him, and one of those years they went to a Super Bowl. But you just see how this season's going and how things are unraveling, and I think part of the reason, and a big part of the reason, is the coach and the coaching staff that don't make any adjustments during games or during the seasons, during practices. It's the same team week after week. The same problems that they have one week, they have the next week. And the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that. It doesn't stop. It doesn't change. And a better coach changes this stuff. Nips it in the bud. gets on top of these situations, able to rectify things, able to talk to his players. But they just don't have respect for him. And you know what? I mean, look, it's the same every week. It's been a draining season, man. It just really, and it looked like it had so much hope. They're 10-1, and I knew there was. Look, it wasn't pretty. They were winning games. They were just, but they, that word kept coming around. Resilient. This team is resilient. I said it, right? Many other people said it, and they went from being a resilient team that found ways to win to just a team that looks like a zombie. They look like a corpse out there, finding ways to lose. And even when they win a game against the Giants, it's like it comes down to the last possession. It's not good. It's not good. And you know what? Maybe it hasn't been good for a while. And this is just the icing on the cake, this game yesterday. But things have to change. Things have to change. Because if they don't move on from this coach after this season, it's going to be the same stuff next year. And it's going to be worse next year. So you can write off another season. I'd rather not do that. But we'll see. Anyhow, that's my opinion on it. That's my thought about this game yesterday. Eagles go down to the Cardinals. Pretty much screw themselves out of any higher seed that they can get. The only thing they can do now is if they win and Dallas somehow loses against the Commanders in Washington, the Eagles win the division, but whoop-de-woo. I mean, well, big deal. I mean, that's not going to move the needle. They had bigger aspirations. They had a chance to be one of the higher seeds. And again, maybe it would have been a smoke and mirrors thing. Maybe it would have been false hope. Whatever, but I still would have felt better even with a 2 seed than going into the playoffs as a potential 5 seed when we were 10-1 at one point, best record in the league by 2 games over the next team in the NFC, 2-game lead after Thanksgiving, and then it all fell apart. It's a collapse. That's what it is. It's a choke. It's a collapse. I mean, call it what you want. And I know it's not just the coaches, because the players are at blame too. But you can only do with what you have. And this team is missing some key spots on that defense. The linebacker plays not good, and safety plays not good for the most part. And when you have that, and cornerbacks have been challenging. So when you have that, and you're not getting that pressure up front, anyone's going to move the ball on you. It doesn't matter if it's the Cardinals, if it's, certainly a team like San Francisco, Dallas, those teams, certainly, whoever they play in the playoffs, they're going to move the ball. Tampa, whoever it's going to be, they're going to move the ball. Next game in the Meadowlands, Saquon Barkley. I mean, you don't think he's licking his chops seeing what the Cardinals were able to do running the ball on this team? And that was the worst part of it, because that's effort. Stopping a running game, that's effort. That's that's effort. That's wanting to stop it. And the guys are breaking tackles left and right. Making Connor look like, Jim Brown in his prime. It was unbelievable yesterday. And sitting on the chair, it's like, I know exactly what they're going to do. Oh, here comes a handoff. Here comes a handoff, and guess what? It's going to open up the passing game, because here comes the play action plays. Here comes the RPOs. And there's wide open receivers down the field. Every time Murray went back to throw, it was like, here comes another open receiver. Yep, there's another open receiver. Here's the open tight end. Yep, there's the open tight end, because everyone's sucking in to play the run, and nope. ...2023 was a challenging year as a Philly sports fan. It started with the Eagles losing the Super Bowl on just a tough way to lose it. It went on with the Sixers losing a second-round series again when they had a lead, and Game 6 at home and the lead in the fourth quarter losing to the rival Celtics. It continued on with the Phillies blowing a series that there's no way they should have blown against the Diamondbacks in the NLCS. And they continued on with this Eagle season. I mean, I'm glad to turn the page to 2023. I know there were some positives. I like what the Flyers did. They got new, leadership in the front office, and they have some young talent coming up. But again, look, you got to win, right? In sports, it's all about winning. That's what it is. And the Flyers, look, they're on the right track. I'm not. Look, this is the gravy year. I'm not really expecting much. We'll see what they do, but I'm happy with the direction that they're heading in. And I think that's one of the positives we can take from 2023. There wasn't many. I mean, the Phillies gave us a good year, but at the end it was disappointing. It was disappointment, right? The Sixers and Embiid won the MVP, but it ended in disappointment in the second round as it has the past umpteen years. The Eagles lose the Super Bowl, and then the following season, now they're just falling apart at the end of the year, at the end of the season. The Union lost in the playoffs, right? I mean, it wasn't a very memorable year, even though there were some individual achievements, but it just wasn't a memorable year. It just wasn't, and I'm glad we turned the page. Now we're in 2024, and we'll see. I'm not expecting anything from the Eagles now. The season basically to me is, I'll watch because I always do, and I'll cam up after the games as I normally try to do here on YouTube for the Season of the Fan series. But I'm not expecting anything. I'm expecting them to lose this week when I go to the Meadowlands, and it sucks because I was looking forward to it. But after that performance yesterday, it's like, okay, well, I'll be there. I've never seen them on a road game, so I'm going to be happy to be with a friend and Slim. But the game itself, I just have no hope for. And then the playoff game, it doesn't matter who they play, Tampa, New Orleans, whoever it will be, I have no hope in this team turning it around. I just don't. And I hate to be this way as a fan. This is the worst thing that can happen. Apathy. But that's what I have for this team right now. There's just no, I don't have any good feeling for the rest of the season. And I hope that if they lose, that change happens, that they get a new coach. And then here we go again, right? We have to ride that roller coaster again. Hopefully they get the right one. Because I don't think it's Sirianni. I think his time is come and gone. I really do. Based off how this season's going. You can just see the team's giving up on him. And at that point, you got to move on from the coach. It sucks, but we're used to getting kicked in the gut around here. That's why when very rarely one of our teams comes through and actually wins a title, it means so much, because most seasons are like this. Most years are like last year without a title. So, we have hope maybe down the road, but I can't see anything now. You just never know, man. Maybe the Sixers shock us all and get out of the second round this year. Maybe this is the year for that. I don't know. We'll see. The Flyers, I mean, they're I think a shining light at this point. The Phillies have not really made any moves. I'm getting a little frustrated with their lack of activity this offseason besides re-signing Nola, but there's still some offseason to go. And the Eagles, I have no hope for this season. And if they don't make a change at the head coach position, I can't say I'm very thrilled for next season, to be honest. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And as always, let's go Birds. Even now, I have to say it because that's what you do, right? Thank you all for joining in. I'm going to go. I realized the KOP mall was open today, so I'm here. I'm going to get some food. I haven't eaten yet today, so I'm a little hangry. So I'm going to get something to eat in here. And I was able to pick up that Ducks hat yesterday at Cherry Hill. It was I forgot. I thought it was a purple hat. It was a teal hat, but I did get that from Pro Image. So shout out to Pro Image at Cherry Hill Mall. And then that Eagles game happened, and everything went south. Even the Flyers lost last night. It just wasn't a good New Year's Eve for our teams. But 2024, it's a new year. You turn the page. It's a new year. Who knows, right? Maybe we'll get shocked by teams, but we'll see. Anyhow, thank you all for watching this Season of the Fan episode for this terrible loss against the Cardinals. I probably won't have that video out today for the collection. I'm going to hope to get to that this week at some point, but today, probably not going to get to it. But I was heading for visiting my mom's to go to the mall. I figured it'd be a nice little trip, so I'll do the Season of the Fan series instead and put that out, that vid for yesterday's game out. Frustrating game. And, we'll take it from there, right? But at any rate, what you always got to do, right? You got to likes and like it up as much as we can. Hit the bell icon. Subscribe first if you haven't already done so to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you're notified of all future content from yours truly. And we'll get through this. We'll get through this somehow, some way. This season has really turned sour, but we've been through it before. Eagle fans, we have a lot of thick skin. We've seen this before. Unfortunately, we have to see it again. But we'll get through it, and hopefully it means change will be coming. That's all I can hope for. All right, everyone, take care. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Happy New Year. Happy 2024.